seriously, Martin Luther King, your holiday is recognized today. We so appreciate everything you did for just mankind, period, and the sacrifice that you made. We honor you and just thank you so much for this amazing, amazing day. And I want to also say that my heart goes out to the family of Bishop Eddie Long. I just ask God to send peace and comfort your way and to comfort your congregation, due to his passing. And just, we know he's in a better place. So blessings to you all, during your time of bereavement. Now, with that being said, tonight I've been especially led to tackle a subject that is not always easy. It's difficult at times because so many people suffer with this disease, I say, without even realizing. But it's mental health, and it covers so much of our life. I don't think we realize just how much, seriously. And even, to even begin to peel the layers off of what needs to be discussed, it's not always an easy thing. So tonight I'm very excited because you know this guest. We have had her in the studio before, and she is absolutely amazing.
One love, one sound, one gospel. 108praiseradio.com.
Yeah, we just had to remind you who we are. We are 108 Praise Radio. But with that being said, sorry for the slight technical difficulty, but anyway, I'm really excited about tonight having her on the show because she has so much information. I always used to call her my Dr. Phil. She is the psychotherapist that handles so many different facets of mental health. And just glad to have her on this evening, Miss Stephanie Herbert. How are you this evening, darling?
Well, I am quite well, and thank you for having me. It's been a little while since I've been here. And I'm very glad to be here.
Thank you so much. I am so glad to have you. Listen, the reason why this subject was so important to me is so many people have been reaching out to me lately just saying, are you going to talk about, when people go through things, or, you haven't talked about that in a while. So I thought, now's the time. We've started, we're in a new year,
Right.
And a lot of people are dealing with a lot, okay?
True.
From politics to relationships to finance troubles and everything in between. Suicide is on the rise, which is scary because so many people are depressed. And when mental health goes undiagnosed, it is almost catastrophic for someone. And before I even get into the question part of asking you what this is all about, the definition, is mental health includes our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. It affects how we think, feel, and act. It also helps determine how we handle stress, relate to others, and make choices. Mental health is important at every stage of life, from childhood and adolescence through adulthood. And that is scary in and of itself, because what if you don't deal with mental health as a child? That can affect you as an adult. And you probably won't even realize it until you're actually going through it. That's unfortunately what happens a lot. So I'm going to say that our phone lines are open for anyone that needs some advice, has a question. I do have some questions that people sent in to ask, and I will be, asking them throughout the show. But if you want to call in, the number is 770-415-2149. You can give us a call, ask us a question. Stephanie is here, and we are open to, whatever answers you need. So, Stephanie, mental health. Not an easy subject, right?
Absolutely not.
Okay, so before we get into the ins and outs, I just want to know what makes someone decide this is what they want to do for their life. It's not easy taking on people's emotions, and sometimes very, sad stories and not always good results. What would make someone want to decide this is what I'm going to do for my life?
Okay. Well, I would have to speak from my own perspective and kind of, my background. Starting out many years ago, I am married for the second time.
Okay.
I was married prior, and I was in an abusive relationship.
Okay.
So that was one thing, and then also I had very close friends that I'm still friends with to this day that had different experiences, and I was always that person to give advice, always that person to just listen, and sometimes that's really all that's needed.
Yes.
But dealing with my own personal situation, what I realized was how the stigma of thinking something's wrong with you or you're different or for whatever reason you don't tell anyone or you don't share anyone and you're actually suffering in silence.
Yes.
And I believe that would have been the beginning for me.
Okay.
To know that it's helpful to be able to share what you're going through. I ended up in a situation that caught me completely off guard as it relates to what I was used to and what I saw growing up.
Okay.
My parents were married over 45 years. I'd never seen any type of abuse of any kind. The most would be my mom telling my dad, they fussed or what have you.
But there's a difference
There's
in
a
just
difference,
fussing.
exactly.
Right, and
so
then
there
just
was
wars.
Exactly. No emotional abuse, no mental abuse, anything like that. So when I found myself in that situation, it was time to take a look at, choices and decisions. And coming from a small town in Alabama, I grew up with the stigma of you don't tell people your business, you don't talk to people, let them know what's going on. And that can really get you in a lot of trouble.
Yes.
And basically suffering alone. So I wanted to be, after I got help for myself, I saw the importance of being able to free yourself. And really that's where the healing begins.
Amen.
When you're able to share that with someone. So
that's beautiful, and that's very important.
Right.
And I think that a lot of people don't realize that when you're going through something, you do tend to want to be quiet about it because depending on the circle of friends you have or the people that you come in contact with, a lot of times you feel like you're embarrassed.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't want anybody to know that behind closed doors I'm getting hit or I'm being dogged out or, whatever the case may be, that my spouse or the person I love doesn't even pay me any mind. I mean nothing to him. I'm insignificant, and vice versa. So I think a lot of times we keep that because we love to walk around in facades. We're so good at masking things, but what we don't realize is in masking those issues, they actually create, wars inside of you.
Exactly.
It's very hard to play a role of someone. I remember growing up, and I learned this a lot. I was taught, again, not to say a lot or whatever the case may be. I used to be so transparent with my life because I just felt like it's an open book, whatever. I don't care what anybody thinks, But it's so funny because once you, deal with different people in different circumstances, you do tend to withdraw eventually.
Right.
Just dealing with, whatever it is that you're going through. And it is so important to find someone, I don't care who it is, that you can potentially trust to be able to at least let it out.
Absolutely.
Because bottling it up, to me, is much more realize you're not happy. What were your steps in overcoming that and getting to your next level?
Well, during that situation, it was, first of all, acknowledging it, being, there's a problem here. This is not normal. This should not be happening. And that was the first key, was acknowledging it, and then getting out of the situation. And, it was more so mental abuse at that time.
Yes.
So recognizing it, getting out of it, and then being able to share. So
You have to, excuse me, I'm never technically savvy.
But yeah, that was the beginning for me. And then, also thinking about my upbringing and how that generation, my parents' generation, my grandparents' generation, even just dealing with illnesses, how it was not discussed, I recall having an aunt that I'm sure she had diabetes, but you don't say that. You don't, yeah, great aunt, won't call her name, had a leg
Right.
amputated, but what happened?
Right.
As a child being inquisitive. And then, so now for me, hindsight, when I hear the stories about relatives that had different types of illnesses, even schizophrenia, it was just not discussed. You just didn't talk about it. So it made me want to know
Yes.
what makes that the case, what makes people do what they do.
Yes.
I became very inquisitive in that question or those questions, and then just helping others. I started doing some volunteer work at the Battered Women's Shelter,
Okay.
being able to speak to women that were actually going through. So that's kind of where I got my start.
That is awesome. And I'm sure that is not easy too. When you're going through and having to hear the stories of some of the women who have been battered or are even just hiding out for, a temporary spell, it is so scary to really think that someone lives like that, in fear every day or being abused. I couldn't imagine walking in my house and every day you never know what kind of ticking time bomb is waiting for you. It's a very, very scary feeling. And I always say that it is very important for people to get help in that area. There are so many more resources now out there for women and even men now to help them.
Absolutely.
Because it's actually becoming a little bit more prevalent that men are getting abused, and they're definitely not saying anything because it's like unheard of for a man to be abused, but it's happening more often. So as you decided that is something that you wanted to do, what gave you the strength to take it on though? Like it wasn't just the fact that you wanted to make a difference.
I would have to say yes. A little bit more about my background. I also have been working in the field of dialysis for the past 9 years, about to be 10 years in May. And understanding that the patients that are coming for treatment, they all, not all, but the majority suffer from another like comorbid situation.
Okay.
Depression, anxiety, in addition to being on dialysis because they've lost their independence, they've lost the use of their kidneys, they've lost other body functions. So that was important because I see people daily. We have about 48 treatments on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and just the amount of patients that are suffering with that disease and then the additional things that they go through because of it.
So you really do believe there is a direct correlation between mental health and your physical health?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
And I don't think people realize that. Wow.
Absolutely.
So you know what, we're going to take a little break. I wanted to get some background on you, Stephanie, just to find out what it is that, fueled your passion to want to be able to help in this area. And when we get back from the break, we're going to talk about, why is mental health, strong mental health, so important, and why we have to stop ignoring that we have an issue because it is affecting our lives. And what happens if we don't? We're going to talk about consequences as well. So you are listening to the Angela Foxworth Show right here on 108 Praise Radio with Stephanie Herbert. We're discussing the importance of mental health. If you want to call in, 770-415-2149. Let us know what you think. We will be right back in just a few, like Chuck Willery says, 2 and 2. See you in a few minutes. If you want to call in, 770-415-2149. Let us know what you think. We will be right back in just a few, like Chuck Willery says, 2 and 2. See you in a few minutes.